So before we start, just one quick request. This is something which is new and also interesting for everyone. And my job is to generate enough interest for you in this topic so that you're able to pick up a lot of new ideas, new concepts before you leave this session in another 1.5 hours. So if you have any questions at any point of time, feel free to put it across in the chat window. Don't hesitate. It is my responsibility to clarify your queries and help all of you to understand the concept of artificial intelligence and how is it making a difference in today's world. So before we start, before I get to the agenda, I would like to share the 4 brilliant quotes by the legends in the space of artificial intelligence, in the space of technology as such. I'm sure you all know Stephen Hawking. When he was asked about artificial intelligence, he mentioned that AI is likely to be either the best or the worst thing to happen to humanity. So he was very clear that either you can make it the best phenomenon in this world, just like any other major innovation, or it can be the worst. It can bring the human race to an end. So this is something which he feared about, which he was excited about. Dave Waters, when he was speaking about AI, he mentioned that in a few years, artificial intelligence virtual assistants will be as common as the smartphone. He told this few years back. Had I told you this maybe 10 years back, you might have laughed at me saying that, okay, how is this possible? But take a look around you. At your home today, are you surrounded by more people or more electronic gadgets, more artificial intelligence agents? Look around you. I can confidently say you have more number of AI gadgets, electronic gadgets in your home than the number of people. That's something I can confidently tell you. So Bill Gates says humans should be worried about the threat posed by artificial intelligence. And Andrew Ng, who is considered to be the father of Coursera, the founder of Coursera, he mentions that artificial intelligence is the new electricity. This is a beautiful statement. Look at the depth of the statement. There are very few innovations which have happened in the human race, which has actually transformed the way the humans have behaved and thought. Take an example. What do you think are the major innovations? Let me get some ideas from you. You can use the chat and you can always give your answers. Don't hesitate to throw your answers. What do you think are the major innovations that have transformed the human race? Any guesses? Personal computers? Yes. Anything else? Education? Yes. Internet? Definitely yes. No doubt. Smart vehicles, Tesla? Yes. But look at the ones, I mean, we are talking about incremental changes, isn't it? All the concepts, mobile, IoT, all these are incremental changes. Are they the transformational changes which has created the exponential growth or exponential change in the way we have behaved? I'll give you some examples. Electricity, as somebody mentioned in the chat. Fire, wheels, internet, all these are major innovations which have differentiated, which have made the way, created new ways, new business models for all of us. Just imagine, maybe 30, 40 years back, do you think this would have been possible? I'm sitting in Bangalore, I'm talking to all of you across the world. Don't you think internet has created this revolution? Small change, but actually a bigger change, a bigger innovation, which has resulted in a huge difference, isn't it? So AI is being compared to all of these: electricity, internet, wheels, fire. All these are major changes which have created a huge change in the way we are thinking. So just imagine the power of AI. So today's agenda, if you have to understand all these statements, we need to understand what is AI, right, to begin with. And we need to deep dive and understand what makes AI different from other technologies. Because almost every year there is a new technology coming in There are new set of tools and techniques which are coming in that technological concept, isn't it? But only few technologies are considered to the legendary changes that have happened in the human race. If AI is one of them, what makes AI special? We need to understand that. And what is the paradigm shift we are talking about? That's something we will understand. And finally, we look at the world of opportunities that are coming with this new change that is happening now. Good. So let's go ahead and understand AI first. What is artificial intelligence? So I'll ask a very basic question to you to help you understand this concept of AI. What differentiates a machine from a human, according to you? Can you throw some answers in the chat window? A machine and a human, what differentiates them, according to you? Emotions, definitely. Emotion, yes. Emotion is one thing that is getting repeated, no doubt. Emotions definitely differentiates. But is there anything else? Thinking, very good. Working time, yes, definitely. Intelligence, beautifully said. Let's come to that slightly. Production of thoughts, good. Response time, yes. Response also the speed, logic, precision. Wonderful. Senses, yes, Abdul. That's a brilliant answer. Yes. Ability to adapt to change. Who is smart in that, Mark? Is it humans or machines? It's a billion-dollar question, right? We always think humans are very quick to change, but there is always a challenge. Good, wonderful answers. This is what I love about diversity of the audience. When people from different countries come and participate, we all get to learn from each other, isn't it? So everyone's thought process is different. The way we think is different. Nice, brilliant answers. So let me come to the answer which I have in my mind, which I believe is differentiating a human from a machine. Okay, so we spoke about multiple answers in the chat window. Most of them are correct, no doubt about it. But look at it. I would say intelligence is something which differentiates a human from a machine primarily. Of course, emotion will also come under the intelligence aspect to an extent, like emotional intelligence, I would call it as. Thinking, creation, as Amir is pointing it out. So all these are aspects, no doubt. But now let me ask you another simple question. Intelligence. If I ask you whether you are intelligent, definitely there will be an answer like, yes, I am intelligent, isn't it? All of us would say that. But how do you define intelligence? Do you have any specific definition for intelligence? Any answers? What is intelligence? Smart ways to do something. Yes, smart is equal to intelligence. Ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Yes, Rohit. Maria says ability to think. Good. So ability to acquire knowledge and apply. That's more like learning and application. Ability to gain knowledge, technical knowledge, open mind, decision in real time. Good. Ability to solve problems. Yes. Ability to speak is also intelligence. Good, Mohammed. That's a brilliant point. Yes. Act to differentiate what is the best choice. Yes. Ability to take the right decision, isn't it, Solomon? So there are different ways to define intelligence. But if I go back and look at the dictionary, most probably I would find this as the answer, as some of you has pointed out. It is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Like, that's a valid standard definition of intelligence. But I would like to highlight a couple of words from the thesaurus which describes intelligence. The power of reasoning and the power of insight. Intelligence is equal to the power of reasoning. That is, are you able to identify and reason things out? Why certain things have happened? What could be the thought process behind that? If you're able to decode that, you can call that as intelligence. Power of insight. Insight is you have data available everywhere. You're going through an experience, isn't it? Like I've been speaking for the last 10 minutes. You would have gained some insights out of it. That is intelligence. So from whatever we discuss, from whatever we see, from whatever we experience, we are intelligent. Our brain is intelligent enough, smart enough to understand what is happening around. And there is a power of insight that comes from the data that we are collecting from our surroundings. So that I would call it as intelligence. But if I have to broadly define, I would say there are 5 different dimensions of intelligence. The first dimension is reasoning. That's the most popular form of definition, right? Defining intelligence. Understanding why behind the what. What has happened, why it has happened. If you're able to decode that, you are intelligent. Learning, as somebody rightly pointed out, ability to gain knowledge and apply. That is learning, right? If I make a mistake today, I'm able to learn from the mistake and I'm able to ensure that this mistake doesn't happen. So there is a learning aspect there. That is another form of intelligence. The third one is perception. Perception is one thing which strongly differentiates a human and a machine, isn't it? How do we perceive items? How do we perceive objects? How do we perceive emotions? Whatever that is happening around, how do we perceive that? That is perception. Like somebody mentioned about senses, isn't it? By the way, I will ask a simple question again, because this is one question I love asking everyone. How many senses humans have? Let me see how many of you guess it right. How many senses humans have? Good. The class is divided. 6 or 5? Some people say 6, some people say 5. The 6th one is special. Okay. There is always a confusion, right? But I think somewhere during the school days, we might have studied the 6th sense is something which differentiates a human from an animal. And there are 5 cognitive senses, correct? What are those 5 cognitive senses? Touch and feel, taste, sight, then hearing, then smell, correct? These 5 cognitive senses, why do we call it as cognitive senses? Because we are able to take sense of the surroundings, of what is happening around. We are able to take sense of the environment around us. And from there, we are able to decode, correct? So the 5 cognitive senses are helping us to understand what is happening around. And the 6th one is the ability to learn, ability to think, the ability to differentiate ourselves from other animals, in fact. The 6th sense is more like common sense, I would put it across. Everyone has their own way of defining it in a way. But these 5 cognitive senses, and there are 2 cognitive functions also. Apart from the cognitive senses, we have the brain, which has the ability to think and learn. Those are called as cognitive functions. And all these 5 plus 2 are able to help us to understand what is happening around us. And this is what I would call it as perception. So a human being is considered to be intelligent if he is able to perceive things, understand things, be aware of things around that individual. That's when the person is intelligent. Then the 4th definition is problem solving, which is another popular definition of intelligence. Because right from our early days of childhood, we all would have realized that anyone who solves complex mathematical problems, we call that person intelligent, isn't it? In India, that's how we call it. Like anyone who does complex trigonometric or probability or permutation combination, any complex topic you take, if the person is able to understand that and decode the problem, he is considered to be intelligent. That's another form of intelligence. And finally, the most underrated form of intelligence is linguistic intelligence. The ability to learn, the ability to understand a new language, that is considered to be a form of intelligence. Let's take all of us. I speak English, but my English will have a different pronunciation. The accent would be different. But our human brains are smart enough to quickly understand. In whatever way I speak, you are able to decode and you're able to understand that. This is another form of intelligence. So if I have to define simply, there are 5 different forms of intelligence that we have understood so far, which I would call it as the dimensions of intelligence. Of course, I'm sure some of you would have read a book which talks about the 9 types of intelligence. Maybe you can just Google it, you will find that. That's also another way of defining intelligence. Now, the point is, I'm trying to understand and bridge 2 words here: intelligence and artificial. Okay. Now, can someone help me define this? I'm using 2 words here. You understood what is intelligence. Now I'm asking you to define artificial intelligence. So take artificial as a word, take intelligence as a word. Can you look at it together and help me understand? Maria says artificial is man-made. Definitely yes. Yes, Abdul, correct. So how do we put it across as a definition then? Man-made intelligence. Okay, good. Some people call it as machine intelligence, as Arjun is rightly putting it out. Good. So we have understood that intelligence means 5 dimensions, and intelligence is not naturally available with machines, isn't it? Machines are created by humans and they are not naturally intelligent. That is, intelligence is not available with the machines. So we create them. We artificially put across the ability to exhibit intelligence to a machine. Now, when we do that, this is called as artificially intelligent machine. Popularly in the market, we call it as artificially intelligent agent, AI agent, we call it as. So it is, as Rohit is pointing it out, it's a simulation of human intelligence in the machines. That's what we call it as AI. Okay. Now I'll ask a simple question. Now you have understood what is AI. Any questions so far? Have you understood the concept of AI? That is, intelligence. I have defined it in the form of 5 dimensions. Now I'm giving that aspect of intelligence to a machine which is not naturally intelligent. I'm creating that artificial intelligence in the machines, and I'm making the machines think. Correct? So Dinesh is putting it out as a definition in the chat, giving the computer the ability to think by itself based on the numerous number of data and give the prediction. Yes, Dinesh, that is artificial intelligence. You have written beautifully, articulated well, good. So that's also a definition of artificial intelligence. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Let's see how many of you are able to guess it right. Are the machines really intelligent, or are they pretending to be intelligent? What do you think? The machines are not really intelligent. They pretend to be intelligent. Is that the answer that all of you are giving me? Good. Then I will ask you a similar question. Are humans intelligent, or are we pretending to be intelligent over a period of time? Humans are intelligent by birth. What do you think? By birth, are we intelligent? Yes, we do gain a bit of intelligence in the form of DNA. They are kind of knowledge transition that happens from our ancestors. Definitely that happens. But don't you think humans are also learning over a period of time? Do you agree with me? Do you see a slight connection in the way the machines are learning now? I'll give you a simple example to help you understand how the machines learn and how the humans learn. And then I'll take you to a deeper example later. When you were born, were you able to differentiate between a cat and a dog? Let's be honest. When we were born, as a small baby, as a kid, do you think we were able to differentiate between a cat and a dog? That intelligence was built in us? Definitely not, right? So over a period of time, somebody taught us, look, the cat looks like this, or the baby sees an animal and somebody is telling the baby that, look, if the animal looks like this is a cat. So next time when the baby or when the kid looks at the cat, he's trying to form a pattern out of it. This is where the difference between, this is how the human intelligence works. You need to decode that. How does the human intelligence work? We learn from patterns. We learn from what we are taught, as Maria is putting it across. But how are we learning it? We are learning it by pattern recognition. Look at it this way. I am talking today. You're all hearing my voice for the last 20, 25 minutes. Now, after 90 minutes of talk, maybe 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, we meet and you hear my voice. Will you be able to recognize me from my voice? Yes, no, maybe, right? How do you identify that? Because you are able to form a pattern in your mind. Okay, Lakshmi speaks like this. It's getting registered in your mind. And over a period of time, after some time, when I come back and speak to you, you are able to map my voice, whatever you are hearing after 6 months, to the voice that you have registered in your mind, and you are matching the pattern. Is I have heard this voice. Can I compare this voice with something which I've heard somewhere else? You're trying to match, you're trying to map the pattern. And that's where the intelligence factor comes into picture. Our intelligence, human intelligence, is more about pattern recognitions over a period of time. Are you able to connect what I'm defining as intelligence here? This pattern recognition is an important critical element of our human intelligence. Most of the things that we do is related to this pattern recognition. Correct? And now this pattern recognition was not available as a feature for a machine for a long time. Now, what we have done is we have taken this pattern recognition and we have given it to a machine now. We are asking machines to pretend to be intelligent in the same way as humans are pretending to be intelligent through pattern recognition. So it's problem solving. Yes, you are solving problems with the help of pattern recognition now. I'm going to explain to you some more examples. We will definitely, you'll be able to relate to this concept better. Okay. Now I'll ask a very generic question. How many AI agents are you using today? I'm sure you all have been using a lot of AI agents, isn't it? Can you give me some of the AI agents which you are using today? Let's see how many of you are able to give some examples from your real world, from what you're using today. Alexa is a popular one, yes. Google Assistant, correct. Phone, smartphone cannot be treated as AI, but of course, some of the apps in smartphone, yes. Siri, stock predictions, Cortana, yes. Google Lens, yes. Bixby, good. Mother Google, the Google search engine which you are using, is the best example of artificial intelligence, isn't it? Facebook uses AI, YouTube uses AI, yes. Smart homes, brilliant. Almost anything and everything that we are using today is able to use artificial intelligence, and we call them as AI agent, isn't it? So an umpteen number of applications that we are using, take any social media app, take any search engine, everything uses AI. That's the beauty of artificial intelligence today. And it has reached each one of our houses. It is going to dominate our life for a long time. Okay. And it's going to be part and parcel of our life in the coming days. So let me define it in an organized way. What is AI in a structured manner, so that you're able to take it as a learning from this particular section. AI is generally seen as an area of technology or computer science, which actually emphasizes the creation of intelligent machines that work and react like humans. So, you need to understand this aspect very clearly. I'm not saying that it is not just mimicking human intelligence. It can be mimicking human actions also. Okay. It is more like a thought process of, can you decode the intent from the actions? Intent is nothing but the intelligence aspect behind the action. So if a machine can repeat whatever the actions the human does, can you treat that machine to be intelligent as the human? Can you treat it? I'll repeat this question. Maybe you will understand this better. If a machine is able to repeat the actions the humans perform, can you call that machine as intelligent as human? For every given situation, machine is doing the same action as the intelligent human would perform. Now, when this happens over a period of time, can you call this machine as intelligent as human? So most of you are saying no, but this is one definition of artificial intelligence. Because whether it is pretending or whether it is really intelligent, we do not know, but actions are matching between the human and between the machine, isn't it? So that is another form, that is another school of thought in the world of artificial intelligence. Okay, some of the complex activities which the humans does, if the machines are able to replicate it, it's called as intelligent, like speech recognition. Today, when I speak to my personal assistant or the voice assistant at home, it can understand, it can decode, correct? So there is a speech recognition software that works. So that can be AI. Learning, planning, problem solving, all these can be treated as AI. But remember, it's just not mimicking human intelligence. Now I'm slightly broadly defining AI. AI can be mimicking and any human action. So it can work and react like humans. Any AI agent, any machine, if it can do that, that means you can call that as AI. I hope you're able to get that. Okay. Now, AI can be defined in different ways. In fact, it was coined in the year 1955, 1956. By the way, let me ask you one more question, just trivia kind of. Okay. When was the first time there was an attempt by humans to create intelligent machines? Can anyone make a guess? When was the first time the humans made an attempt to create intelligent machines? Yes, Dinesh. Dinesh got it right. Alan Turing, Turing's test. Now, another trivia. Recently, there was an Hollywood movie on this Turing's test. What is the name of the movie? Imitation Game. Yes. So this attempt was made in the late 1940s when Turing tried creating the Turing test, where they started seeing success that machines can be made intelligent. And within few years, John McCarthy, who is considered to be the father of artificial intelligence, in the year 1955, 1956, they had a conference and they came up with the concept of defining artificial intelligence. That was the first time the term AI was coined. But all of us may be thinking that AI is a new concept, isn't it? If I had asked this question, like how old is AI? Most probably you might have guessed 10 years, 15 years, but nobody would have guessed like 70 years or 75 years, right? That's a pretty long time, isn't it? Now, with this kind of impact that it has created, you need to understand we are actually in the third era of artificial intelligence. So AI has gone through multiple eras. We are in the third era of artificial intelligence. And we call this era as the age of machine learning. And that's why we are talking about machines learning from the data. The way we have been defining AI now, we are defining it in a slightly different way. That can we make machines intelligent from the data that is available? So this is called as the golden age of artificial intelligence because machine learning has made this very successful. Okay. So AI is intelligence exhibited by the machines. We have discussed that. And in computer science, the field of AI research defines itself as a study of intelligent agents. Any device that perceives its environment, as we discussed earlier, and takes actions that maximizes its chance of success at some goal. Okay. Colloquially, the term AI is applied when a machine mimics cognitive senses or cognitive functions. Tomorrow, if you find a machine which can see, you can call it as AI. If it can taste, you can call it as AI. I mean, the popular humanoid bots, they are called AI because they're able to perceive and behave like human. And if it has cognitive functions like learning, problem solving, thinking, then you call it as AI again. And all these factors come under the concept of machine learning. Okay. Machine learning or AI, actually, if you have to define it, AI is just not about computer science. It is about varied fields. Even though I called it as a technological concept, at the end of the day, it is about study of human beings, isn't it? Now, if you notice, human beings, whatever the science related to human beings, be it psychology, neuron science, biology, maths, sociology, philosophy, anything you take, at the end of the day, all these sciences are relevant to understanding how the human behaves. Now, what is AI? It is mimicking human actions. That means you need to understand why is the human being doing certain things. So to understand that, you need to decode, you need to understand about the human first, why certain actions are performed by humans in certain manner. Now, when you decode that and encode into a machine, you call that as artificial intelligence. So now I will define an AI system in a more formal way. This is something which comes from PricewaterhouseCoopers. So AI system is a system that can learn from experience. Now connect the dots. Whatever I'm showing you now, is it related to the definition of intelligence which we defined at the beginning? The different dimensions of intelligence, are you able to see the connect? A machine which can learn from experience, a machine which can use the learning to reason, a machine which can solve complex problems like recognizing images, a machine which can understand language and its nuances, and a machine which can create perspectives. So a machine which can do any one of these or all of these can be called as an AI system. Are you with me so far? Have you all understood what is artificial intelligence? Yes, perfect. Is my pace okay? Are you all able to relate to what I'm telling you? Good. If I'm not clear, if I'm not explaining it well, please take a pause, ask me questions, I'll explain to you. Because you are not expected to learn this in the first shot. So please ask me questions. I'm happy to clarify so that at the end of 90 minutes, I want all of you to go back with the confidence, and you should all deliver a lecture on AI for at least 10 minutes. Will you promise me that? Will you go back with that confidence after this session? Okay, Solomon asked a question. There are 3 eras. I mentioned 3 eras of artificial intelligence. Yes. In fact, the first era is about search and deductive reasoning. The second era is about creating expert systems. The third era is about machine learning. Have you heard of expert system? Has anyone heard of expert system? Forget about the first one. First one was very simple in a way, like it was more in the research labs. People are trying to understand whether how the knowledge can be fed into a machine, how the knowledge can be searched and fed into a machine. That's what they were thinking about. So not a lot of things could be achieved in that first stage. Only papers were written. In the second one, if you notice, the first era is called as a search and deductive reasoning. That is to understand, to gain knowledge, how the machines were working on that. That's what was the first era. The second era is about creating expert systems. This was in late 1980s. Okay. Okay, can you again repeat the 3 eras? Okay, I'm repeating it. The first era was somewhere between 1955 to 1970s, when they called it as the age of search and deductive reasoning. That is, the machines were trying to understand, or people were trying to understand how to feed data into machines, how to feed knowledge into machines, search how to feed that reasoning power into machines. They were making the experiments, but not much worked in that era. There was a winter, we call it as AI winter, which started from 1970 to 1980s. Then the second age started, the second period. That is from 1980s to roughly around 2000s. So this was called as the age of expert systems. So what they did during this one is I'll take a simple example and explain to you what is an expert system. I'm sure all of you know what is autopilot in a flight. All of you know autopilot, right? In an aircraft. Or I will take the popular Hollywood example. Now, Air Force One carrying the American president is on air. As you would see it in an Hollywood movie. If there is a missile attack, who do you think is the best person to maneuver the flight? Is it autopilot or is it the human pilot? Who can be the best person to maneuver the flight? Human, autopilot. Any other answers? I see most of them as autopilots. Good. Why autopilot? Why not human pilot? The reason is the biggest advantage or the biggest disadvantage is, yeah, humans panic. Absolutely right. So humans have emotions. Machines do not have emotions. When a missile is going to attack our flight, do you think I'll be normal? I will start panicking because my life is in danger. But a machine will not recognize that. The machine would have been coded very clearly to understand the data that is coming in from different sensors in a flight. It will take the right decision without any emotions attached to it. So autopilot is the best one to maneuver and ensure that it is escaping from the missile trajectory. So autopilot is seen as an example of expert system. So what have you done? You have fed in enough knowledge about how to maneuver a flight in different situations. The expertise of a pilot is being fed into this system, which is called as an expert system. The expertise of the flight is fed, a pilot is fed into this machine. So this machine is called as an expert system. And at that point of time, it was called AI. But today, almost we are seeing expert systems everywhere, right? So we no longer call it as AI. This is another school of thought about artificial intelligence. What people believe is anything that is not achievable or we are working towards achieving that is called AI. The moment achieved, it is no longer the artificial intelligence. This is another school of thought about AI. Okay, good. I hope you got the second era. This is the age of expert systems. The third one is age of machine learning, which started from 2010, 10 years back. This is the age which is considered to be the golden age of artificial intelligence because all of us are able to understand, all of us are able to create intelligent machines in a slightly different manner. That is, in expert system, we were feeding the knowledge into a machine in the form of programming. By writing if-else logic, business logic in the form of a program, we were making a machine intelligent in the previous era. But today, with little programming, the machine can learn by itself. We are just feeding in the data, and from the data, the machines are picking up knowledge. I hope you're able to relate both. Okay, let me not deep dive here because we may not have time to complete it, the session, but I hope you're able to understand the three different eras. So Solomon, did I answer your question? Perfect, good. Now, guess this person whom you are seeing on screen. Sophia, a humanoid robot, okay? But what makes Sophia special? Yes, this is Sophia. Should I call she or should I call it? By default, I call her she, isn't it? That's the kind of impact the AI has created today, isn't it? So it is a machine, but when I refer her, I call her she. Sophia is special because Sophia can understand or give expressions in a way. Sophia can smile, Sophia can close her eyelids and show emotions, expressions. Sophia is brilliant. Okay, I wouldn't say that she's brilliant or more intelligent than any other machine in the world. There are intelligent machines, but Sophia is someone who can express. That's what Sophia is different. That's where Sophia is different. And she's the first citizen robot. Yeah, she's 5 years old now, correct. But watch the YouTube videos of Sophia. You will be amazed by the kind of knowledge and by the kind of learning that Sophia has. Okay, good. Now, finally, to complete what is AI part, the first section, I would say AI has multiple areas. Just like how the PwC has defined, it is coming slightly in a different manner. Machine learning is a popular area under artificial intelligence. Linguistic intelligence is connected to NLP, speech, expert systems we spoke about, planning, scheduling, and optimization in manufacturing space, solving complex problems that comes under planning, scheduling, and optimization. Robotics, humanoid bots, intelligent bots. I am sure you would have seen some viral videos of Boston Robotics and other companies that comes under that. And finally, computer vision, like cognitive vision or computer vision, it's called. I mean, usually during the COVID, you might have realized how different countries are using cognitive vision to detect who is having COVID, who is having fever. Based on the temperature sensors, they are able to capture that. So these are the different areas explored in artificial intelligence. Okay, good. So AI is everywhere. I need not tell you, we have already discussed this almost in our phones, cars, shopping experiences, everywhere. Be it Amazon that you visit or anything that you do, there is always a bit of AI that is running in our operations. But why AI now? If you look at it, what has made AI popular today? Thanks to the internet, big data, open source community that is available today to come up with open a lot of libraries in Python for us to implement it. And we have the computational power that is super awesome today, thanks to the Intels and other companies which have enabled this. So all of this has resulted in more model diversity, more complex models to solve complex problems, regular updates with the help of the community, with the help of the companies. And in a way, the major technology giants like Amazon, Google, Facebook, all these companies, what they have done is they have democratized the concept of technology today. Once upon a time, the technology was owned by certain companies and it was licensed and given out as products. Today, whatever that was available in the research labs as AI has been brought out to the open through lot of innovative apps supported by these companies in the market. So the democratization of technology has resulted in the economics of AI. That is, more companies are using AI, which has resulted in more platforms. And as you all know, data is the new oil and machine learning is the refinery, which has been running on it. So deriving better insights out of the data to take better decisions. That's what is happening. In fact, the recent term is data is the water for an organization. Just like water is the elixir of all of our lives. Without water, we cannot survive. The same way, the new age organizations cannot survive without data. And you need artificial intelligence, machine learning to refine the data and get better insights out of the data. So what is the business value path? This is the process that you may need to relate to. With the help of the data that is available, you are using artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques to predict from the data. So you build statistical models and you derive insights from the data. And with the help of the business insights, you are taking decisions, which is actually contributing business value. So finally, organizations are investing in AI, machine learning, because they are gaining business value. They are able to take better decisions with the help of better models on the data that is available with them. So this is the path to the business value. Okay. Now, so far, what we have understood, and first of all, thanks to Akhil for sharing that information. In fact, I would say that I mean, I have nearly 15 years experience in the industry. So I started with the conventional analytics and slowly realized that AI is the future. AI is the new electricity. And I upskill myself with a degree program on AI machine learning. And I realized that it is very useful for me to apply it in the real world, because I mean, we can plan for a career only for the next 10 years, isn't it? Any program that you take, there is an expiry date. And for us to survive in the new world of job opportunities for the next 10 years, I would say that AI ML is the right choice for you. So think about it, explore, read more, understand, and try try to secure knowledge in the space and gain it as a skill over a period of time. Okay. So with that, I'll come back to this topic. What makes AI special? So you understood what is artificial intelligence. You got a clarity of what is AI. Now let's understand what makes AI special. Let's do it with an example. Okay. I'm sure all of you would have done this experiment of throwing the paper ball into dustbin. Have you all played this game? In office, at home, wherever it is, generally we are lazy, right? Sometimes. So we do not want to get up from the chair and put a paper ball into the dustbin. So we try to aim it and throw it. But how many of us are generally successful? Not many of us, right? Now, this particular, from this simple experiment, let's try to understand how AI is special, how machine learning is special. Okay, I'm going to teach you the concept of machine learning from the simple example. Okay, now you throw the ball. Okay, you have the paper ball in your hand, you throw the paper ball, the ball falls beyond the dustbin, let's say. So what is your learning from it when the ball falls beyond the dustbin when you throw it? Let's say I'm considering two variables, the force at which I'm throwing it, the angle in which I throw. These are the two variables I'm considering when I'm throwing the ball. Now I'm throwing the ball falls beyond the dustbin. Too much force. Yes, Sanjay, correct. So now again, I repeat the experiment. Now I throw the ball falls before the dustbin, correct? Now what is your learning? It's less force. You keep on repeating this. Over a period of time, you will identify what is the right force for you to throw, right? What is the right force? What is the right angle in which you have to throw? Only then over a period of time, you will learn it, that this is how I have to throw. This is the speed at which I have to throw. This is the angle at which I have to throw. Speed is nothing but the force. And if I do this in this way, the ball will fall into the dustbin. So this is what your intelligence will teach you. Do you agree? Over a period of time, you will do this and you will become an expert in throwing the paper ball into the dustbin, isn't it? Now, let me try to automate it with the help of a simple technology, okay, simple program. You all know, right? There are different languages that we use. C, C++, Java, take any language for that matter. Okay, Python, there are multiple languages. Take any language. I'm asking you to write a program, okay, to understand whether the ball will fall into the dustbin or not when you throw it. Okay, based on two factors, the force at which I'm going to throw, the angle in which I'm going to throw. Based on these two factors, I'm asking you to write a simple program to throw the ball, to identify whether the ball will fall. How will you write a program? Can anyone give me an example? Throw your ideas. How will you normally write a program on this? Any program for that matter, don't worry. Force into angle. So there is some kind of a physics equation which we may use, correct? Some kind of a physics equation which we may use to identify the relationship between the force, the angle, and the ball will fall into the dustbin or not. These three things I'm connecting. I'm writing a simple equation and I will pass these parameters to that function, saying that was this force and this angle, if I throw it in this way, will the ball fall into the dustbin or not? You are trying to judge it. This is how we do conventional programming. So you write a simple if-else logic. If the distance is this distance, we keep it as constant, let's say, because you're sitting in one place and throwing it. Now you're trying to understand the force and the angle. Based on this, you're coming to a conclusion. So this is how the normal programming works. Do you agree with me? Are you all with me so far? This is the traditional style of thinking. Do you all agree or am I confusing you? Perfect. Good. Thanks for the confirmation. Now, here the concept is simple. You have got an equation. You're just putting it in the equation. You're getting the results. If I have to give you a similar example, take the calculator. In the calculator, you have multiple buttons, plus, minus, asterisk, slash, you have multiple buttons. For every button, you write a logic, isn't it? You say that if I press the plus button, whatever numbers that are passed with the plus button, I have to sum it up. So there is a clear cut logic defined. Okay, boss, plus button means only two, whatever numbers are passed, we have to add it. I'm not confused at all. So million times I press the plus button, the answer will be the same, correct? Whatever numbers are passed, the output will be the same. There is no confusion at all. This is our traditional programming style. Accurate results with the data that is passed in, there is one equation which is fixed. But now let's get to the machine learning style. Okay, Rohit has given a simple program. Maybe Rohit, you can share it with everyone. That's a simple way to define it for a calculator function. Now, I will give a machine learning style, how this works. You understood the aspect of intelligence, right? Like throwing the paper ball to the dustbin. When I throw it with more force, it falls beyond the dustbin. You understand that it is more force. You reduce the force. You are keeping on doing this experiment by throwing the ball. Every time you are capturing the input as well as the output. And let's say 25 times you have thrown the ball like this. Okay. Out of 25 times, 5 times the ball has fallen into the dustbin. And 20 times the ball has not fallen into the dustbin. So every time the ball is thrown, you are capturing the input. What are the two inputs? The force and the angle. And what is the output? Whether the ball has fallen into the dustbin or not. That is, you are calling it as 0 or 1. If the ball has not fallen into the dustbin, it is 0. If the ball falls into the dustbin, it is 1. Now you have 25 rows. Just open a simple Excel sheet. You're putting it as force, angle, output. Now for every force and angle combination, you are capturing the output. Whether the ball has fallen into the dustbin or not, 0 or 1, you are capturing it there. Now you have 25 times you have thrown the ball, you have captured the output for 25 records. Are you with me so far? Everyone? Can I get a quick yes from all the students here? All the participants? Perfect. Thank you. Now, the concept is, do you see a pattern? Do you see a pattern in the records where the ball has fallen into the dustbin? And do you see a pattern where the ball has not fallen into the dustbin? There are two patterns that exist, correct? If I take the 5 records where the ball has fallen into the dustbin, I can clearly find a pattern of why the ball has fallen into the dustbin. Somewhere I have thrown it with the right force, the right angle, which has enabled me to put the ball into the dustbin, correct? Now, this is what I call it as the intelligent way of defining the equation from the data that is available with me. Do you understand? So from 25 records, what I have done is, I have taken all the 25 records. The input data is available where I have angle and force as 2 input records, and the output is 0 or 1 depending on whether the ball has fallen into the dustbin or not. Now I'm passing this as an input to a machine, and I'm asking the machine to find out and build a model based on the pattern recognition. The 5 records which I've got, those 5 records will tell me a pattern, will help me to understand the relationship between the force and the angle, and force, angle, and the output. What kind of pattern that exists? What kind of dependencies that exist? Is there any hidden relationship? I'm able to find that out, and based on that, I'm building a model. So how is this found out? This relationship, pattern, dependencies, how do I find that out? This is where statistics come into picture. Remember statistics? We all might have studied during the school days, college days, isn't it? Statistics is a branch of mathematics which is actually helping you to understand more about the data. Okay, you are trying to decode what is the equation that would be a better fit for the 25 records that you have gotten. And in those 25 records, 5 records where I could find out the ball is falling into the dustbin. I am building a simple equation. Maybe I'll tell you the equation that will be easier for you to understand. Remember in school days, we used to type in linear regression. How many of you know linear regression? Like line of best fit, or what would be the best value, next value? We all might have studied that somewhere in our college or school. Linear regression equation is y is equal to f of x, correct? By the way, I see some people raising their hands. If you have questions, you can put it across in the chat window, please. Or if it is the response, put it as yes or no in the chat window. That would help. So y is equal to f of x is the normal equation for any statistical algorithm. For linear regression, I would call it as y is equal to f of x1, x2. That is, x1 is nothing but angle, x2 is nothing but force, the two variables which I considered. Now, if I have to convert this as a proper equation, y is equal to function of x1, x2, I will put it as y is equal to w1 x1 plus w2 x2 plus constant. Are you able to relate to this? That is, I'm just saying that y is equal to mx plus c. That's how we used to call it earlier, isn't it? Or y is equal to ax. You define a as the slope of the equation when you draw it in a graph. I'm slightly getting statistical. Don't worry. If you're not getting it completely, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry. Okay. But the concept is I'm identifying the weights of the variables. Or if I have to define it in simple terms, the force and the angle, do you think both carry the equal weightage when it comes to the output? How many of you will say that both carry equal weightage? That is, force and the angle with which I'm throwing the ball, do you think they carry the same weightage when it comes to the ball falling into the dustbin or not? How much influence these two variables will have? Will it be the same or will it be different? Both are important, correct? But do you think both will have same weightages like 50-50? We do not know, right? Honestly. The answer is we do not know. We can't say that 50-50 or we can't say that it will be different. This is where the data comes in. The 5 records which I have given you saying that these 5 experiments have gone right by getting the ball into the dustbin, that will help me to determine this W1 and W2, which is called as the weightages. It will help me to understand which one has more weightage. Is it the force or is it the angle? With the help of the simple linear regression equation from the data that is available, I am able to build a model. So how do I define a model here? Model is nothing but a statistical equation which has been derived from the data that is available with me. Are you all with me now? Do you understand this? What I'm trying to say? Any questions, anything, any confusions here? Perfect. I'm getting some good yeses. But if everyone confirms, I will be happy. Good. Thank you. Now look at this. This is where the change is happening. In the traditional programming, we used to give the program very clearly. The equation is very clear. The data is very clear. So you pass the data to the equation and you get the output. That's how the traditional programming used to work. Like the physics equation I was talking about. Now, in machine learning, what I'm trying to say is, look, I have got 25 records of me throwing the ball into the dustbin. I have got the input as well as the output. Can your machine be intelligent enough to create an equation out of it? That's what I'm trying to find from the data that is available. Now I will relate it to the cat example. First time, how did you learn that this is a cat? Somebody fed you that information. This is a cat. And when you started seeing more cats, over a period of time, you started forming an opinion that this is how the cat will look. Do you agree? Do you all agree with me? Tomorrow, if somebody comes and tells me, like, for example, you go to a new land where the cat is looking completely different. You have not seen that type of cat, let's say. Do you think your mind will accept that, or your mind will recognize that it is a cat? Like, for example, I mean, I don't know how many of you watched Game of Thrones. Okay, the wolf that comes there. If you ask any Indian, the Alsatian dog that we find, and the wolf that we have, if you ask me to differentiate between the two, I will struggle, honestly, because I can recognize the Alsatian dog, which is a cross between the dog and the wolf, I guess. So, and the real wolf, if it comes up, what is the difference? I would not be able to tell, because I'm confused. I'm not exposed to the wolves generally, isn't it? I've seen it in the book. I have very limited knowledge about wolves. Tomorrow, if I see a wolf directly, I may be confused. What is the difference between fox and wolf? Maybe from the theoretical knowledge, I can guess. But my mind has not got enough input to make a right decision there. Yes, Allah is right. Yes, ask the right question. So training sequence, more than that, I will put it across like training data set. You need more data about everything in the world to form an opinion about something. Okay, like for example, if I want to recognize all the cats in the world, ideally my data set should include all the types of cats, some 10,000 images of cats or 20,000 images of cats, or even 2 lakh images of cats. For every type of cat, what is the cat type and whether it is a cat or not. I need to differentiate that. And over a period of time, my mind, when it processes, it will capture it, as well as the machine will also capture it in the same way. When it is given 2 lakh images of cats with the right types tagged, it will result in right identification of the, or right pattern recognition. Okay, this is the cat and this belongs to this cat type. So as Osama says, more data is equal to more accuracy in a way. At 50,000 feet level, I will agree, Osama, but of course, as we learn machine learning deeper, you will slowly understand this statement may not be right always. Okay, but for now, let's safely assume more data is equal to more accuracy. But this is where the change comes in. Now, with the help of the input and the output data, I have built a model in machine learning. Now, this model can actually help me to predict what would be the right value for the new data that is coming in. Like, I'll take the same example. I've given 10,000 images of cats and I've identified everything as a cat. I've labeled them as cat. That is the output. Now I'm feeding those images to a machine. It is running a statistical algorithm on top of it and builds a model. Now it has built a model and it says that with 80% accuracy, I can predict whether it is a cat or not. That's what the machine will say. Now, when I give a new cat image as an input to this model, it can actually identify whether it is a cat or not with 80% accuracy from the past data. Now, with more number of cat images being fed, slowly that accuracy will improve, as Osama was asking. I may slowly increase from 80, 81, 82, 83, and slowly over a period of time, it may touch 90, 95. But will it reach 100%? No, because we are working on probabilistic models. Okay. Do you understand the difference between traditional programming and machine learning? Yes, no, are all of you with me? I've tried to simplify as much as possible. I don't know whether I've done justice. Perfect, good, thank you. Now let's move on. This is where the change comes in, okay? Now you have understood what makes AI special. Now let's understand what is the paradigm shift that is coming in. Now I'll give you some more examples which will help you to understand. In fact, this is where the problem solving technology has changed now, okay? If you notice, the traditional programming may not be able to help you in solving a lot of problems. Do you agree? In traditional programming style, the problem is you need to clearly define what is the problem. You need to have a small, simple equation very clearly written. Only then it will help you to solve the problem, correct? If you don't have the equation, like for example, take this example of cat and dog. Identifying the image of a cat. Do you think you'll be able to write a program using the traditional style? From the image of the cat, will you be able to identify the image, identify the cat in the traditional programming? Think about it. Traditional programming is if-else business logic, if I have to simplify. Is there a way that you can write a program where it says that if the height is so much, if the weight is so much, if the fur is there, all these questions, will you be able to put it across and write a program to identify whether an image is a cat image or not? Very tough, isn't it? Because there are a lot of exceptions. Like, for example, if you say that cat is very small, dog is very tall, suddenly there will be a pug, which is a dog variety, which may not fit into your definition of cat or a definition of dog, isn't it? Somewhere there will be a confusion. The model will not be able to be accurate. So the traditional programming style could not solve a lot of problems. That's where the machine learning model comes into picture. It can help you to solve a lot of problems in a simpler way. Okay, let's understand. So what is actually happening now is, in the modern day machine learning problem solving technique, you're actually predicting. You're not giving accurate result, you're only predicting. Remember, I told you 80% accurate model. That means with 80% accuracy, you're predicting something. You're not giving an accurate result. In traditional programming, the advantage is, even if it is not solving all the problems, whatever problems you are solving, it was 100% accurate. But in the machine learning style, even though you're not getting accurate results, you're solving a lot of problems, but it's all approximate because it's prediction. What is prediction? It is the process of filling in missing information. It takes information you have, which is often called as data, and uses it to generate information you don't have. It can be about the present also. Let's look at some examples. You'll be able to identify that easily. A credit card transaction, is there a way that you can find it as legitimate or fraudulent? Let's look at it this way. If you have to use the traditional programming style, most probably you may write a program like, if a transaction is more than 1 lakh, the transaction may be fraudulent. Because you're always, let's say, for example, you can't have a generic rule, right? When it comes to credit card transaction, like you may be spending in a particular pattern, I may be spending in a different pattern. So the patterns for each customer for a bank will be different. So the traditional programming style of defining the values and understanding and putting it in a business logic will not work. Now, let me give you a simple example. I stay in Bangalore. Let's say Lakshmi Narayanan is swiping his credit card in Bangalore continuously. Let's say I'm swiping 3,000 rupees, Indian rupees every time, every week. Okay. And I'm doing it in Bangalore. I'm not doing it anywhere else. Suddenly my credit card is getting swiped in, let's say, for example, Philippines or in Thailand, somewhere in a restaurant. If that happens, don't you think there is an anomaly here? Lakshmi Narayanan has been swiping his credit card regularly in Bangalore, India, but suddenly his credit card is getting swiped for nearly 2 lakh rupees in some other country. Do you see an anomaly here? Now the machine will quickly recognize this. This doesn't, now what machine has done is it has recognized a pattern for Lakshmi Narayanan, saying that Lakshmi generally swipes his credit card in this fashion. He doesn't cross this amount. His spending range is always this, and he usually swipes it in this location. Now, somewhere else beyond a certain number of kilometers, if the card is getting swiped in a completely different amount, automatically an alert would be triggered to the customer care executive. The customer care executive will make a call to validate whether the transaction is legitimate or not. If I confirm that, yes, I am in Thailand, I have done this, then he would make this transaction as legitimate. If I tell him that, look, I'm still in Bangalore, how come it is swiped in Thailand? Then he will call it as fraudulent. Now, do you see pattern recognition here? For every customer, there is a pattern, and the patterns are different. And based on the patterns, the anomalies are detected. I hope you're able to relate to whatever we have learned so far. Now, this is a machine learning application. This is an AI application which is used by different financial services companies today. Take the third example. The person looking into the iPhone camera, is he the owner or not? Is there a way that we can use predictive algorithm to do this? The traditional style may not work, correct? The traditional style, the problem is the person, whatever photo that is given, I should match exactly like that person. Only then the iPhone camera will be unlocked. The iPhone will be unlocked. If the iPhone tells you that way, do you think most of us would be able to unlock an iPhone? Very challenging, right? We will get the costliest phone on earth, and if we are not able to unlock it, it's a problem. Just because we gained few ounces of weight and our face has become fatter, now we are not the mobile is not recognizing us. That's a problem, isn't it? Now this is where the prediction algorithm comes into picture. So when you are doing it initially, when you are setting this feature up in your phone, you take different images of your face, and there is a pattern that is recognized. How does your face look? The facial complete structure is noted down by iPhone. Now, next time when you log in, you may not look straight. You may look from the side and everything. The pattern is trying to, the iPhone captures the pattern again. It compares the pattern it has already captured. Now, if it is matching with 90% or 95% accuracy, the phone gets unlocked. Do you see this again? How the pattern matching, pattern recognition is coming into picture again? So the new wave of AI does not actually bring us intelligence, but instead it is bringing a critical component of intelligence, which is called as prediction. I'll take you one more example. This will explain the whole concept in a very simple way. Let's take the concept of autonomous vehicles. Do you think autonomous vehicles are new? No, they have been in existence for a long time. In fact, you would all have seen videos, viral videos of how the Amazon warehouses are using autonomous vehicles. Like one bot will move from shelf to shelf carrying packages, and move it to different shelves, recognizing the barcodes and other things. They are autonomous vehicles. They have been running successfully. They have been running successfully inside a structured setup that is like a factory where the floor is very clear, the factory plan is there, and there is a clear-cut if-then business logic written. If the shelf is empty, go to the next one. If somebody crosses the vehicle, please stop. So all these aspects are clearly defined, so the vehicle is able to work perfectly in a very, very organized setup. But just imagine taking this vehicle and putting it on a road. Do you think this autonomous vehicle will be successful on a road? Definitely not, isn't it? That's where the problem is, because there are too many conditions. There are too many if-else conditions that are there, which you cannot code into a machine. There are a lot of complexities, isn't it? That's where you are thinking that, can I transform this whole transportation problem into a prediction problem? How do I do that? If I want to transform this prediction, a simple transportation to a prediction problem, all I have to do is I have to answer this basic question. If the car is on the road, what would the decision be? What would a human do when something is happening on road? Like a signal is red, or a car is crossing, or a pedestrian is crossing, a kid is running, or a vehicle is overtaking. There are different things that can happen on road. Now, can you identify what would a human do? Try to answer this question as a prediction. Try to predict the answer for this question with a certain level of accuracy. Now, when you start thinking in this direction, your whole problem will have a solution, even though it is not 100% accurate, but still you're able to get a solution. Over a period of time, you can improve the accuracy by getting in more data and improve the model. And the moment the model is 95, 98% accurate, then you can launch the vehicle on road. Do you get my point? I'll explain it deeper, okay? What do? We are trying to decode how the human being will drive on road. How do we learn driving? All of us would have practiced car driving, right? Most of us. Now, how do we learn driving? We sit on road, we sit on the car, and we drive the car on road. There is always somebody, an instructor who sits on our side. The instructor gives us instructions. Okay, you see a red, please stop. You see a green, please proceed. Do you see a vehicle which is giving a right indicator? Please go slow. So there are different instructions that you see on the road as well as you receive from the instructor on your side. And you slowly pick it up. Okay, if these are the data that I have, I will take this decision. So as you learn, as you drive billions of miles on road, Slowly, you will start understanding how to drive on road by capturing data from the environment, and you will start responding to the data with a specific action, whether to apply brake or whether to accelerate, whether to turn right or left. Correct? This is how the human beings learn. Now, is there a way that I can make a machine mimic these actions? What do you think? Is there a way? Now, do you see a pattern on how we are learning it? We are clearly understanding what is happening on the road, and based on that, we are taking a decision. Now, the same thing, I can make a machine do it. How? Look at this vehicle. This car has been fitted with umpteen number of sensors. So whatever that is happening around the car, I'm able to capture it with 360-degree cameras and a lot of IoT sensors. Now, I'm asking a human to drive this car. And while the human is driving, I'm capturing the data every second from all the sensors, and it keeps on recording it. Now, I'm also capturing what the human being is doing. Is he shifting gears? Is he applying brakes? Is he taking right? What exactly he is doing? And I'm trying to relate it with the environmental data that I'm capturing with the help of sensors. Now I'm trying to find the pattern now. Now do you see input and output both are available? Do you see that? When I do it this way, now I have to find out the relationship between input and the output now. What was captured from the environment with the help of sensors? Now, what action did the human do? Is there a relationship between the two? Is there a way that I can build a model out of it with the help of statistics from all the data that has been collected? If I do that, if I build a model, and if the model is 95%, 98% accurate, that means my autonomous car is ready. Are you all with me? Do you understand this example? How the machine learning works? The way we humans are thinking, we are learning it in a structured way, decoding them and encoding it to a machine. Thereby, we are making the machine work in a particular fashion. Okay. And this is how we are solving the problems which we could not solve for a long time. Okay. So if you notice, I mean, at the end of the day, you may ask this very simple question. If modern AI is just prediction, then why is there so much fuss about it? Correct? This comes to your mind, right? Because anyways, it's just prediction. If it is prediction, why are we talking about it so much? If you notice, prediction is the foundational input. Anything and everything that we do today, there is a bit of prediction in it. In fact, I'll be honest with you. Now, I've been teaching for the last 1.5 hours, literally. I can make a prediction now. If I ask a question, I know which person will be able to answer immediately. I can come up with a prediction. Do you agree with me? There is a pattern in the way we are all answering, isn't it? So I can predict it from the pattern, but this is very limited time. Let's say, for example, I take a course, 30 hours sessions I'm taking with all of you. I can be doubly sure which person will answer next because I have so much of data available with me. And I use that pattern to predict. And predictions are always hidden as inputs to decision making. And better prediction means better information, which means better decision making. And remember, we are living in a world where decision making is very, very critical and crucial. Do you all agree? Right from the decisions we take as individuals to the decisions we take as organizations. Everything is so critical today because there are so many variables playing around. 2 years back, we did not know that COVID will strike us. So the organizations are struggling. We did not know what kind of data would come in. This is an anomaly, right? It did not follow the normal pattern, which the human intelligence could have predicted. But today, the same COVID problem is solved with the help of machine learning. Now, do you understand how machine learning could have helped in COVID vaccination? From all the patients, we have understood the concept. We have understood the pattern of the virus, what kind of impact it is creating. And we started comparing this pattern with all the viruses which are already existing. And then we are able to come to a conclusion like this virus follows this pattern, and we're able to connect the dots and we're able to play it around. So that's where the difference comes in. Okay. So the paradigm shift has happened in this way. That is, the algorithmic problems which were existent for a long time has become prediction problems now. The features of a cat, as we were discussing it earlier, now we are trying to say that, does this image with a missing label have the same features as cats I've seen before? I'm trying to relate it that way. So today we are able to solve more problems with the help of data, with the help of all these concepts. So more data, better prediction, better model gives better decisions. Yes, Solomon, absolutely right. Okay. Now let me look at it in simple terms. This world is full of predictions, isn't it? Now look at HR, human resources, as a set of predictions. Can I answer these simple questions? If I want to hire somebody, is there a way that I can remove the complete manual process of resume shortlisting, resume screening, interviews, group discussions, whatever that may happen? Is there a way that I can remove this manual process and directly look at the data of the applicant? And can I hire that individual? Yes, I can do that. How? All I need to do is I need to find out who is the successful employee in my organization. I'll find a pattern for that from my employees' data. And now any applicant who is making an application, I can try to relate from the data whether this applicant is matching to that pattern or not. If he matches that pattern, I would throw an offer letter if the match is 100%. If the match is 50%, I may have a manual interview only for those candidates and hire them. So all I'm trying to do is, see, of course, you would also notice the same pattern, right? Because we also have similar pattern recognitions in our mind, like somebody from this college, somebody with this degree, somebody with this language capacity. All these aspects would be a criteria for you to shortlist someone for a particular job. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the machine do that particular job of identifying the pattern as criteria and make the machine do that. So HR as a set of predictions, you have umpteen number of examples. Okay. So, okay, Cherry, I hope this is the slide you're asking for. So everything in the world can be seen as a prediction problem. That's all I'm trying to say. Today, with all the changes that are happening around, with the data that we are collecting, everything can be solved with the help of prediction analytics. Okay. So my recommendation for you for this particular area would be go through this particular book, Prediction Machines, written by Ajay Agrawal and others. He's a Harvard professor. And if you're not an avid book reader, then you can watch a video on the same topic, Prediction Machines by Ajay Agrawal. I'm sure you will learn a lot about AI in the same lines of what we have discussed so far. Okay, good. So finally, I would say world of opportunities. Thanks to COVID, thanks to AI, today, all the organizations are talking about artificial intelligence and digital transformation. Thanks to COVID, which has accelerated the path. The organizations are adopting AI to a greater extent in the last 1 year, 1.5 years. The exponential growth has happened. And I would say this is the right time for you to pick this up as a skill, AI, machine learning as a skill that will help you to be successful in this space over a period of time. And I would always say, as a mentor, I would suggest this. You always need to pick up an industry which is in the initial stages, the introductory stages of the life cycle. So AI machine learning is in the introductory stage across different geographies. If you pick this up as a skill, over a period of time, you will grow with them, grow with the industry, grow with the market, and you will be able to become an expert over a period of time, and thereby your expertise would be respected and rewarded by the industry. Good. This is what I wanted to cover today.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up and share it. Also check out amazing discounts and offers on our premium courses in the description below.